I know I don't just speak for myself. There are a lot of people of color who are great at their job, who know what the fuck they're doing, who are actually incredibly capable, who are working under a far, 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 far less capable white person who is just given the job because they knew the right person. And I'm sure that you can maybe argue for the inverse, but trust me when I say the scenario I just described is a lot more common. But before we get into this video, I wanted to let you guys know that it's sponsored by Nebula. Now, if you guys enjoy my content, you will probably love the vast majority of the creators on Nebula. For example, if you guys like Lindsay Ellis, she's actually releasing videos right now that are exclusive to Nebula. She recently released a video called Everyone Loves Guy Fieri Now, and I was actually in Vegas when she filmed this, so I myself am gonna hop over to Nebula and check it out. And before that, she released a video about how The Lord of the Rings was adapted for Peter Jackson's trilogy. That content lives exclusively on Nebula, and I think that alone is a good enough reason to check them out. You guys may have heard me mention a few times that I'm working on a big project. I really am excited about the things that I'm creating right now that are going to be shown way in the future. And when they are shown, they will appear first on Nebula. As a YouTuber who tends to make content about controversial topics, I have definitely found that YouTube is sometimes not the best platform for the kinds of content that I want to create, which is why I'm so thankful for Nebula, which allows a lot of creators like me to create content that is to the full breadth of what we want to actually create. Right now, if you click the link in the description box below, you will receive a 40% discount on your annual subscription of Nebula. And of course, when you sign up with this link, it benefits me. So if you like doing that, if you like benefiting me or whatever, I would definitely suggest you sign up for Nebula to get access to a lot of really, really great content being created by independent creators who want it to be on a platform that allows us to do a bit more than we can currently on YouTube. Anyway. Hey guys, it's Kat and we're back for another commentary video. I'm so happy that you guys have been enjoying these videos because I'm enjoying making them. So let's get into another one. But before we do, let's get into this hair. I just decided to recurl my hair recently and it came out so cute. Like, I have not really seen it on camera until today and I'm really into it. So I just felt like taking a moment to appreciate the fact that I did that. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my hair. We're here to talk about this video that I saw on TikTok. Now, the original person who posted this video has been banned, I understand, and you'll see why when we get to the video. But I wanted to comment on this, and so I felt like sharing it with you guys, so here we are. I'm going to be watching this video from Jenny O's channel. Jenny O does a lot of really great Black-centric TikTok compilation videos, and she managed to get this video before he was banned, so I will be showing it to you first from her, and we'll get into my commentary after that.
Would you trust these doctors with your life, considering their college admission standards are lower, and they might even have special classes to pad their grade to make sure they pass, only available to minorities? Now, that's not to say that none of these doctors are qualified. I'm sure some of them are. But are you confident that every doctor in that room got there by merit, that they have the work ethic, the intelligence, and the impulse control to do their job properly?
That was something. That was something. I thought this video was really interesting because the little bit that I know about medical school is that it takes a really, really long time. It isn't cheap. And you actually have to pass, right? Like, it's not one of those things where people just, they throw it at you like, oh, here you go. It's actually not an easy thing to pass, right? Clearly, they've done the work, right? But of course, like a lot of white people, he looked at a room full of Black doctors and said they could not have possibly have gotten there because of their ability to actually do the job. They must have gotten there by affirmative action. Now, I always think it's really funny when people talk about affirmative action and assume that if they see a Black person in a position of power or influence, that they only were able to get there because of it, because that is not the reality of affirmative action, right? Affirmative action predominantly benefits white women who benefit from affirmative action because they are women, and like many protected classes, women are on on the list of people who are given extra support because of a history of misogyny. And what does that usually mean? White women end up benefiting from it the most because misogyny tends to only be defined by how white women experience it. That's a whole other conversation. You can watch my video that I did about intersectionality all those years ago to understand that point if you do not. But long story short, misogyny in America is often defined by a white woman's experience with misogyny, which means that in situations like this with affirmative action, the beneficiaries are going to predominantly be white women. So this idea that all these people of color are just benefiting off of the fact that they're people of color and, you know, getting preferential treatment for that reason, it's just so asinine, right? And I guess it's really interesting too to think about this as well. Not too long ago, we were hearing stories about how white celebrities were paying people to take tests for their children so that their children can place in college, right? It's crazy to think about how many white people are in positions of power because their daddy paid their way, or because they donated to the school, or because they knew a person who knew a person who knew a person. And it's so interesting that many white people think genuinely that the only reason a Black person could ever be in a similar position is if they were just given preferential treatment because they are being pitied on the basis of their race or some bullshit. It fascinates me. I hear people all the time say this shit who are underqualified in their jobs, right? And I'm not gonna say that there aren't situations where people don't chastise a person of color or a marginalized minority as hard because of their own fear of seeming like a bigot. Like, I'm sure that there's something to that, but that's one of those jobs where you really got to know what the fuck you're doing, right? And he asked the question, would I trust these Black doctors, right? And I'm gonna just come out and say that I absolutely fucking would. Why? Because our medical system is incredibly fucking racist. There are so many instances of Black mothers struggling during their pregnancies because doctors didn't believe them when they told them that they were in pain. Like, there's such a long history of racism within the medical field. I mean, even on the back end of it, we only have modern gynecology because of the way that white doctors abused slave women, right? Like, there's hella racism within the medical field. And I actually think it's a positive thing that more Black doctors are popping up. But it's so interesting. This also reminds me of another video I saw. I watch a lot of Karen videos. That is my way of going to sleep. My boyfriend always makes fun of me for finding conflict so soothing. But there's this video that I saw where this woman refused to get treated because the only doctors that were there were Black doctors. In fact, let me look that video up right now.
A doctor that was not white, that did not help my kid. I would like to see a white doctor. You're telling me there's not one white doctor in this whole entire building?
Yes, no.
Stupid. Oh my god. Well, what's the closest that you have to speaking English?
Okay, so you have to keep in one, but there's other pieces of it. So hospital is the best.
No, I stood there, and they only have brown doctors.
The woman repeatedly demanded that a white doctor who speaks English and, quote, doesn't have brown teeth treat her son. We've obscured her face in the video to protect the identity of her son. Linda Ward is on that story this morning. She's outside the Mississauga clinic where it transpired, and Linda can only imagine. Obviously, she was not alone in that clinic as this was going on, this rant. So what were people there saying, doing? How were they reacting?
Well, obviously, hearing something like this is not what you expect when you go for a visit to the doctor, and certainly several onlookers hearing as the woman demanded to see a white doctor for her son who was having chest pains. Many of those onlookers yelling back at the woman, some of them saying to her, you know, you need to take him to the hospital across the street to see a doctor over there. Why don't you take him somewhere else? And all the woman said was that she had gone and taken him to the doctor and that she wanted to see a white doctor. So lots of outrage. We did hear some of that on that tape where one woman actually confronted the woman who was yelling in that waiting room. Take a listen to how that played out.
Get her.
I'm not going there with all those packy doctors. I don't have money to go to Georgetown.
Oh, so you're broke?
Somebody that speaks English here.
Your child clearly has more issues with you being his mother than him needing to see a doctor. You are extremely rude and racist. You want to talk about packy people being at a hospital? Maybe you should check yourself in.
Amen.
And the police were called to this incident. They say that they have spoken to all parties involved and that the situation was resolved. The clinic behind me not making any specific comment about what happened in that waiting room, Heather.
Damn. Some people will literally let their kids like suffer, just suffer, you know, just so they can take them to a white doctor. And mind you, the story I just showed you, I thought it happened in America, but it actually happened in Canada. So for all you people who think that Canada is less racist, like, no, not at all. Here's the thing. I think it says a lot when you look at a person of color and assume that they are less qualified because they're a person of color. You may try to hide it under, oh, you know, it's just because of affirmative action and because they have different rules. And no, you're looking at somebody and assuming that they're not qualified for their job because they're a person of color. It's just racism. It's just racism. It's literally just that. You have no genuine point or genuine valid concern. No, you're completely invalid in all of your concern there. You are literally just being racist. I just wanted to sort of talk about this because I think it's so funny. This pops up all the time. A lot of times when white people see a black person in any position of success, they assume that they just have no way of getting there without some sort of pity party because of their race. And it's just so insulting because I don't know about y'all, but I've known so many white people in positions of power and influence who do not at all have the qualifications to be where they're at. They just know someone who knows someone who knows someone. They were at the right place in the right time and they were able to get the job because, you know, they're part of the good old boys club. And mind you, that's why affirmative action exists, right? Because a lot of times in a lot of industries, the way that people were hired was very much, well, if you know a person that knows a person and that you all go to the same country club, and that's how they get in, right? Which of course meant that a lot of the people who got brought in were white, right? And obviously that's not always the case, but it has been. It has been. And affirmative action is supposed to exist to counteract those things. But again, affirmative action predominantly benefits white women. So to act as though it's this thing where all these black people who are getting any sort of anything in this society are just getting it based purely on affirmative action is just ridiculous because you guys do not care nearly as much about the people who go to Harvard because their parents donated to Harvard. Or, you know, like my mom is a Harvard grad, right? And there are still people who believe that because she went to Harvard, she was some sort of affirmative action case. It's so frustrating because I've had to listen to my mom talk about that all my life. And then I have an aunt who works in corporate America where all she does is train the white kids whose friend knew a friend who knew a friend for the job that's above her, right? And that's so common. I think the interesting thing about white supremacy is it convinces a lot of white people that they're greater than they are. And that's actually really depressing because of course this guy only feels this way because he thinks that affirmative action convinces black people that they're better than they are. But in all reality, black people actually have to work a lot harder to get even a modicum of the freedom and access to capital that a lot of white people do, right? And you know, I know that people don't like to have the white privilege conversation. Frankly, I don't really give a fuck. Privilege exists. I'm privileged. You're probably privileged too. We all are privileged probably in some way, shape, or form. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. And I think it's important to acknowledge that privilege exists so that we can understand why certain people have certain barriers to success. And then once we understand that we live in a society that imbues us with biases that often makes it so that we look at people of color, that we look at women, that we look at people who are marginalized minorities and say that they can't possibly know what they're doing because they're not a white man. We live in a society that only encourages that kind of thing, doesn't discourage it. Any sign of discouraging of this shit is met with resistance. And you just have to look at the reaction to CRT to really see that, right? We can't teach everyone about the truth of this country and about how deliberately certain groups of people, Black people especially, were undermined by white supremacy, because that would allow people to maybe think that maybe they're not so great as they think they are. And all these people want to do is keep that alive. They want to keep that lie alive, right? And that is, unfortunately, probably one of the most damaging aspects of white supremacy, in my opinion. I know I don't just speak for myself. There are a lot of people of color who are great at their job, who know what the fuck they're doing, who are actually incredibly capable, who are working under a far, 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 far less capable white person who is just given the job because they knew the right person. And I'm sure that you can maybe argue for the inverse, but trust me when I say the scenario I just described is a lot more common. So anyway, on that note, I just wanted to share my thoughts about that, and hopefully you guys got something from it. I will be trying to do more of these little commentary videos as I feel so inspired. I've been pretty inspired the past couple of weeks, so I've made a bunch of them. And a lot of those videos are currently now sitting on my Patreon. If you're ever interested in getting advanced access to my Patreon content, you can do that by going to patreon.com/katblaque and get that access. Get that access as much as you need that access, BB. Okay? I try to post a lot of stuff ahead of time, and at the time of me filming this, at least, I'm pretty backed up in terms of content, so there's a lot of things to be seen there. On that note, I will talk to you guys later. I want you guys to always remember and never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.